Hello everyone, it's Charlton. Please subscribe to my channel and tap the notification bell. I'd appreciate it majorly. So Lev Parnas is now going to cooperate with the three committees that are participating in the impeachment inquiry. So, the Oversight Committee, which I believe used to be Elijah Cummings, was the chair. Karen Maloney is the interim chair now. The Intelligence Committee is Adam Schiff, and I don't know who the third committee is, so I, naturally don't know who's chairing that committee. But there's three committees investigating Trump. With regards to the impeachment inquiry, they had initially called for these two individuals, Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman, associates of Giuliani. There's a ton reported on that. I'm not reviewing all that. Back on September 30th, I believe, they were just called to testify and provide documents. And initially their attorney, John Dowd, who actually is also used to be an attorney for President Trump, I believe with regards to the Russia investigation, was representing them on that matter. And then on October, I think it was 10th, they were indicted, and and so they had additional counsel for the criminal matter. Kevin Downing, who also just, ironically, I don't know if I'd call it that. I'd call it something else, but used to be Paul Manafort's criminal attorney. So, in any event, back then, through Dowd, who was doing most of the talking for them, they weren't going to be cooperating, and they weren't going to. He was basically saying they're harassing his clients. They're expecting him to produce all these documents too quickly. They're too broad and wide-ranging. Blah blah blah. And actually, it now turns out because he's changed counsel. Lev Parnas has. He's changed. He now has two new attorneys. One who is Joseph Bondi, New York attorney. It says a criminal defense attorney and a cannabis business attorney. And also, I'm fairly certain this is the dude, Edward B. McMahon Jr., is an attorney in Virginia, I assume outside of Washington, D.C., who focuses on white-collar crime defense, national security cases, public corruption, other things. So, but most this is all coming from a New York Times article. I believe they spoke with Joseph Bondi, and it's not the same as Pam Bondi, who's the former Attorney General in Florida. He's based in New York, actually, and Pam Bondi is Bondi with an I. Anyways, because those dudes they reside in Florida, Parnas and Fruman. So, but he's now going to cooperate with the impeachment inquiry, Parnas is. It doesn't say whether or not Igor Fruman is, but it does say in this New York Times article that Igor Fruman still retains John Dowd as his attorney. So only Parnas has moved on. And apparently, reportedly, Parnas is not happy with the fact that Trump basically adamantly denied ever knowing these individuals. I don't know these guys. I don't know what they do. During one of his press gaggles on his way to Marine One or on his way off of Marine One, when he was asked about it, and he said, you'll have to ask Giuliani about it. And that guy was reportedly, his attorney specifically says he's not happy about that, and pretty much denies that, that he does know him and that it belies, or whatever the expression is, defies common sense that they wouldn't know each other with so many pictures and very personal settings where it's, just small groups of people, not, long photo lines or anything like that. At the White House, in a group of 8, having a personal dinner, with his own son present, and his son pictured with Trump on another occasion. In any event. And actually, it turns out there's an email here that the New York Times obtained. That here's Trump's statement basically when he was responding to questions about this. He said, "I don't know them. I don't know about them. I don't know what they do. Maybe they were clients of Rudy. You'd have to ask Rudy." The president said. He said, "I have pictures with everybody," but and it goes on to say that how initially Parnas was Parnas and Lev Fruman were kind of staying on the Trump team, on the Trump train, and not cooperating with the impeachment inquiry. But since then, and now that he's been indicted too, that he is. But he also reserves the right to plead the fifth. Anything that might incriminate himself in his own criminal charges that he's facing for campaign finance violation charges. I don't remember specifically exactly what they were. The actual statute that they supposedly violated. So, but apparently, in order for John Dowd, to represent them, being that he was the president's former attorney, he actually got, written consent from the president via Jay Sekulow, one of President Trump's current attorneys, basically saying, I've reviewed this with the president. He's aware of it, and he gives you, permission to go ahead and represent these two clients. And that email is in here somewhere. Dude. Mr. Parnas, this is not the email, but Mr. Parnas was very upset by President Trump's plainly false statement that he did not know him, said Mr. Bondi, his attorney, whose client has maintained that he has had extensive dealings with the president. After federal prosecutors in Manhattan announced charges against Mr. Parnas and 3 other men, Mr. Trump told reporters he did not know Mr. Parnas and Igor Fruman. And I have discussed the issue of representation. Okay, so this is the email from Jay Sekulow, basically giving John Dowd permission to represent these two clients. It says, Mr. Trump signed off on the hiring of Mr. Dowd, according to an October 2nd email reviewed by the New York Times. So that's before they were indicted, okay, but after they were called to testify and provide documents on September 30th by the 3 House committees, investing Trump in the impeachment inquiry. And it reads, I have discussed the issue of representation with the president. The president consents to allowing your representation of Mr. Parnas and Mr. Furman. Jay Sekulow, another lawyer for Mr. Trump, wrote to Mr. Dowd, misspelling Furman's surname, and whether or not that was just he didn't know the actual accurate spelling of Mr. Furman, or Fruman is his real spelling, or if that's, sort of intentional to make it seem like they're not, they don't know these people that well and that kind of thing. So, but Mr. Dowd said in an interview that Mr. Trump's approval was sought simply as a courtesy to the president because of the lawyer's previous work for him. Mr. Dowd said he still represents Fruman. A person close to Mr. Trump said that the email did not demonstrate that the president knew Mr. Parnas or Mr. Fruman personally, but rather knew of them from media reports. This is before they were indicted. On October 3rd, when he still represented both men, Mr. Dowd wrote a letter to the House Intelligence Committee that implied that some of the materials the Democrats had asked the men to produce would be protected by attorney-client or executive privilege. We'll see where this goes. I mean, that's pretty much, the gist of what's going on this newest development and how far they'll go. Over here, the title over the Daily Mail, but it's a UK outlet and typically takes great liberties in their titles to seem, to get clicks. But it says that, I'll help Democrats impeach probe, says Rudy Giuliani's indicted associate after ditching Donald Trump's former attorney for a new lawyer. I don't know that he actually said that, and I couldn't find that anywhere in this, Daily Mail article. I think they're just generalizing there. But, that's the story there, dude. There's a ton more to these dudes and how it goes to Ukraine and this charity for Jewish refugees in Ukraine. That they had a sort of a chapter of that I think in New York City that they were board members of, or one of them was a board member of, and another one had some other position within the organization. and a whole bunch of stuff. And there's one in Anatevka, I think is the name of the town that's been created to be a place for Jewish refugees that were fleeing the war in eastern Ukraine with Russia and Russian-backed separatists. And there's a London chapter as well. And I think it's some of Lev Parnas' travels, maybe Igor Fruman too, I'm not absolutely certain, to London and other places involve that. And it seemed as though there may be ties to, this Russian oligarch or a Ukrainian oligarch that has ties to Putin and, is said to be, in the upper echelon of the Russian mafia, who's a billionaire, who's in Vienna. It seems as though there's ties to that, but it's just too difficult to go through, right now. So we'll see. I mean, I kind of just wanted to focus on the impeachment inquiry story of this, and that's the story there. All right, thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below. I'll see you in the next video. Later, man.